All right, Bulls and Bears back with another dose. Economic reality, bull to the bus. BX4 News back in the building. Ride the bull, prepare for the bear. Let's go ahead and get into it. Should we be preparing for the bear? Is there going to be an economic downturn? Well, I've always said they can print their way out of a financial recession or deflation. They can print to infinity, and that's what we're seeing still. Now, there's budget cuts happening. There's obviously job cuts happening, especially these federal jobs. Tariffs now being implemented, which are definitely going to be inflationary. But let's go into some other news here today about others that are predicting an economic downturn. JP Morgan is out there now forecasting that there's over a 31% chance of an economic downturn. That's up from 17% in November. Bank of America points out that they have 60% bearish signals already in play, and we're going to see more forecasts like this, more predictions of a downturn, but nobody actually knows if and when there'll be a downturn. The scary part is if there's not a downturn, what could happen with continued economic growth, as they're calling it, could be much worse. Because remember, in a downturn, you usually see the cost of living come down, prices come down, and then they come in with massive helicopter money, and they usually inflate their way out of it. And then you see higher prices down the road. And then you also see job losses during when there's the downturn too, because deflation equals job losses. And then money creation and debt accumulation and deficit spending and people spending money they don't have, that creates jobs, but it also creates inflation, right? So it's a tug-of-war, right? So do you want continuous job growth with continuous inflation, or do you want some deflation, cost of living coming down, but you're going to see some pain with massive job losses, right? So it's insane, folks. But let's get into some latest news here. UPS rolling out fuel surcharge hikes and processing fee changes. So we're seeing companies still raising their prices, raising their fees. We see the post office raising their rates on stamps and all kinds of deliveries. We've got new threats out there of even bigger tariffs. Look at this. New 250% tariff on Canada starting almost immediately. What does that mean? And they're saying they're threatening the tariffs. So I doubt we're really going to see 250% tariffs. Can you imagine the cost of something being over 2.5 times of what it would be just because of tariffs? So if you're importing eggs that are $10 a dozen, now they're $25 a dozen. I mean, this is crazy, folks. And then you laugh at the fact that we have to import eggs, but we've killed over 150 million chickens here, 150 million chickens here in the U.S. because of the bird flu situation. And basically the way that the authorities are putting this is that if a few chickens have the flu, get rid of the whole farm is what they're saying. And that's why we've seen so many, like 150 million chickens killed. All right, and that wasn't all at once. That was over the last 4 years. By the way, I'm not sure why the light's flashing back there. I just turned it on, and it's supposed to pick a random color. Today, it's just flashing through different colors. But let's get into some other news, folks, here. Some other details I wanted to get into. Some things that happen here in Southern California. One, we've got this crazy person driving through a CarMax car dealership because they were upset about their appraisal. We're going to talk about that. We're also going to talk about what's happening down here and not too far from me, maybe 5-10 miles from me, a city called Lemon Grove here in Southern California in San Diego County. And they try to come up with a solution for the homeless population here. If you're in California, or if you've been watching this channel or just been watching the news in general, you know that there's a big homeless problem in California. So tiny homes could be a way to do this, but people are set against tiny homes coming to their area. Take a listen to this.
Expressed outrage tonight in Lemon Grove over a proposal to build dozens of tiny homes for the homeless in their community.
Residents made their voices heard tonight at a special city council meeting. NBC7's Omari Fleming was there.
This meeting paused multiple times because the city council members kept getting interrupted. Dressed in red, hoisting signs of protest, residents at this special Lemon Grove council meeting voiced their opposition to a proposed tiny homes project.
We're not going to learn anything, so please.
Read the signs. Tiny sheds equals big problems. Great idea. can't really tell what they're saying. So basically, it comes down to they're thinking it's going to bring bad elements to the neighborhood. You're going to have a bunch of what they're saying, drug addicts and alcoholics and the typical stigma of the homeless people. And it was going to be in this vacant field right here.
It's owned by Caltrans. Among the concerns for some residents, the liquor store and an elementary school nearby.
Yeah, I bet the liquor store will get a lot of business.
That we do not want those cabins in Lemon Grove. We the people don't want them in Lemon Grove.
Homelessness has always been interesting to me. It's sad, definitely sad. There's a lot of, I think, people that fell into homelessness that were just trying to make a living. But a lot of it is like, I don't think I've ever seen a homeless person that didn't drink and smoke, right? Not that those things cost a fortune. They can if you do them every day. They can actually add up to being a lot. But I think it's more about addiction than it is. I mean, it's part about the economy because everything is expensive. So it's a combination of the high cost of living, and then that drives people into, I think, stress and anxiety, which could lead to depression, which could lead to drinking and trying to drown your problems. And it's a whole thing, but let's continue here.
We have to start somewhere. There's nothing that's more critical than actually providing housing to let people begin to repair their lives.
The development is estimated to cost $11.1 million to build and
$11.1 million. Look at this. And that doesn't even look like it's 100 homes, does it? I mean, I could sit here and count them. It's not 100 homes. It doesn't look like. Let me rewind that. That can't be right.
Development is estimated to cost $11.1 million to
$11.1 million for these.
build and $3 million a year to operate.
$3 million a year to operate. What is there to operate? Let the homeowners, the homeless people, homeowners, or they're going to be considered renters. They're not going to give these homes away. They're going to let people use them, but don't think they're just going to give people homes. No, the powers that be are not that generous.
As transitional housing for unsheltered veterans, seniors, and adults. The county also noted the program excludes people with certain criminal backgrounds, like registered sex offenders and those with active felony warrants.
There you go. It excludes people with criminal backgrounds. So what their argument is, it's going to be safe. People don't have to worry. These are good people.
If sobriety is not required, this doesn't fit here.
Councilmember Jessica Heredia cited public safety concerns among the reasons she's opposed to the project.
What are we going to do as far as increasing sheriff patrol?
Protests in neighboring Spring Valley led to county
They're holding
supervisors
signs on the
scrapping a
street.
similar.
I don't know. Let me know what you think about this down in the comments. Would you want a homeless tiny home village or tiny home community near your home? Do you trust that these people are going to be vetted and they're going to be good people? Or do you think it's going to bring a bad element? Would bring a bad element to your neighborhood. So a lot of these people they're holding signs, or they're on the sidewalk, they're protesting it. So what they're saying is, though, that they should have moved this to a more of a commercial property type of area, commercial area, instead of residential housing, right? So with a lot of vacant commercial property, you would think they could come up with some sort of way to transform some of these empty buildings. There's a lot of vacant buildings, especially here in California. Ever since 2020, we saw, the exodus of so many office buildings to work at home. So it's interesting that they can't come up with a better solution. So anyways, thought that was interesting. What seems like a no-brainer solution, tiny homes, often comes with a lot of protest and a lot of people opposing it. And you can kind of see why, but on the other hand, what else are you going to do to house these people? They're sweeping the sidewalks, right? These homeless people set up their tents on the sidewalks. They get swept away. They move them to the park. Then they sweep them out of the park. They try to go somewhere else. And, there's really no place for these people to be. So you've got to come up with a solution. But anyways, let's talk about something else that happened here in Southern California. And this has to do with what people are getting for their vehicles when they go to trade them in. Or sometimes you want to trade them in for a newer model and you get an offer from the dealer. Okay, we'll give you this much on your trade-in. Well, look what happened at a CarMax up in Inglewood. This is near Los Angeles here. Let me play this. Well, first, let me give you a briefing on it here. CarMax customer crashes Subaru into showroom after apparently got a bad appraisal offer. And this is the second time in 3 months. I guess there was also a silver Subaru. It's weird that it was the same color and make. was driven through a dealership door in anger in Colorado. What they're saying is that it injured several people to critical condition. And this was just on a couple days ago on March 8th. 8 people injured, 2 critically, and it was an intense rampage. Let's go ahead and play the video. If you have younger people with you, you might want to cover their ears or have them, because I think there's might be some bad words flying around here. Let's go ahead and play this. He didn't just drive in there. He continued to drive around like was he trying to run over people? I mean, you could say it could have been worse. Like, he could have kept driving around, aiming at people. But it looks like after he crashed into the building, he was looking for his exit. So he went out this other, was it a door? Was it a window? Looks like the back door. Look at all the people in there. A lot more could have been hurt, folks. And this is just, I think, a microcosm of what's happening. I mean, people are so caught up in this hamster wheel of barely scraping by. So it only takes one situation to make people snap. We see all these road rage videos where people are snapping just because somebody might have cut them off. And yeah, it's not good to get cut off. But then what they'll do is they'll cut the other person off, and you're putting everyone around you in danger when you do that. If I got mad, and I live in Southern California, if I get mad at everybody that drives bad, then I would be mad 24/7, because every day I drive on the roads, it's always some idiot out there, right? So if you let that rule you, you're going to have a bad and very challenging life, and it's going to be full of controversy and conflict. But it only takes one thing to push someone over the edge, right? So you pay a lot for an automobile, maybe a year or two, a few years down the road, you think it's worth still a significant amount. You go in, and the car dealer who wants to make a profit, they're going to offer you probably as little as possible, because they're a business. They want to make as much money as possible. They're going to offer you the least that they think you'll accept. And maybe you won't accept it, but they're going to offer as low as possible because they have to make a profit. And they're going to sell you the car for as much as they can to make a profit. That's business, folks. But people are snapping because they don't think they're getting... If you don't get the appraisal you want, how's about going and finding someone else that might give you what it's for? Go to a different dealership. You can trade your car in or get it in an offer through Carvana. My sister just sold her car to Carvana. It was a 2014 Honda CR-V with 180-something thousand miles on it. And because the paint was still in good condition, stuff like that, they still gave her $4,000 for a car with 180-something thousand miles, over 10 years old. So I thought that was pretty good. Hondas do hold their value pretty well. Subarus do too, and it doesn't say any more about how old this Subaru was, but there's places to go and get offers for your car. And if you get a bad offer, go somewhere else. Try to sell it online. There's OfferUp, there's Craigslist, there's Auto Trader. Is that still around? That was around when I was a kid. Auto Trader, the magazine. Now it's online, I think. People are snapping though, folks, and this is something that I see really increasing. And just in the past 3 months, 2 people driving into car dealerships. All right, let's move on, folks. Another government shutdown looms. Deadline to avoid a government shutdown nears. Will Congress act in time? Government shutdown is possible, but they expect to avert it. Now, many people say this is always going to be funded, because if it shuts down, then whoever's running the show gets the blame, and the politicians don't get paid. Or do they get paid? Maybe they'll still get paid. I don't know. But people always say that they're going to pass the budget and to avoid the shutdown. Is it different this time? Is it going to be where they're opposed to all these reviews and looking into how the money's being spent with the audits and everything happening right now? Does the opposing side want to stop what the other side is doing? Do they want to stop what the current administration is doing? So will they not fund the government for that? Well, they're putting their own paychecks on the line. So on one hand, you would say no, but on the other hand, we've never seen the type of things that are happening right now. I don't think there's going to be a shutdown. I think there's a 0% chance, but it could be the black swan that triggers this whole economic downturn. Or will it be something else, or will it just be continued inflation? Nobody knows, right? But it's a good idea to keep an eye on all this news, all this data here, all this information. But it is interesting. We were told there's going to be a drop off in spending, and we're going to watch where the money's going, but they want to pass another budget so they can spend more money. So is it hypocritical, or is it just the way things are always going to be? All right, let's jump into housing a little bit here, folks. FHA default rate. The situation's getting worse. FHA purchase delinquency rate hit nearly 15%, folks, 14.98%. And that is, the easiest way to get a home. I mean, the lowest down payment, but there's actually even lower down payments. There's a 0% down payment program out there now, many of them, to still allow people to get into a home. Even with that, though, we're seeing home sales have dropped off of a cliff. The problem is prices haven't dropped off a cliff because people are stuck in their homes. One, if they sell, they're going to have to go pay rent somewhere, and rent is very high right now. If rent was cheaper, that would be more incentive for someone that owns a home to want to sell their home, right? Because if you can sell your home and go pay rent somewhere for half of what your mortgage was, then that would be a pretty good deal. But you can't, because rents are still elevated right now, right? So it's got to be a balance, folks. I mean, if home prices are high, there should be an escape hatch or escape route, and that would be cheaper rents. But right now you see high rents, high home prices, and that's a big problem. And that's, like going back to the beginning of the video, that's one of the contributors to all the homelessness that we're seeing right now. All right, but I do want to wrap today's video up with this. Going back to what we talked about earlier, the mental insecurity with people, or the mental, what's the right word, instability with people. Be careful out there. You could be at a car dealership, and all of a sudden you've got a raging customer driving through the front of the dealership, and all of a sudden you're trapped under a car. Maybe your kids are with you. Pretty scary. But here's how they put it in a recent over at NBC. You lose all hope. Federal workers gripped by mental health distress amid the current administration's cuts. And we're going to see a lot more of this. We're going to see a lot more, I think, emotional and mental health concerns and turmoil, and more people doing crazy things, right? So could it get a lot more dangerous out there? Absolutely. That's another thing with economic downturns. Crime goes up, depression goes up, and just desperate people are out there. And we know that so many people are reliant on handouts. We just talked about our last report, food banks reporting that they're not getting enough food now because the cuts happening. That's going to be more people desperate, more people going into a rage or just desperate to maybe rob and steal. And it could cause crime to spike, folks. So what's going to happen here, folks? Nobody knows. But let's keep an eye on this, folks, together. We're going to get through this together. And we're going to try to find ways to invest. I've kind of taken my eye off the investment situation right now. I still have some positions in stocks, some stocks I've had for many, many years. Not getting many new positions right now. As I've said here a few times, I'm being very cautious right now, just kind of taking a wait and see approach. I know other people that are still investing just like nothing's happening, just like all these new twists and turns that we're seeing right now, and the way America runs doesn't faze them. All right, and maybe they'll come out to be big winners, or maybe the few of us here that are sitting on the sidelines will be rewarded because we're going to have hopefully some cash on the side ready to invest when this thing falls apart. If it doesn't fall apart, what's it going to look like, folks? I mean, please let me know down in the comments. This is a lot to try to wrap your head around. So many things happening right now. We've never seen this tariff situation where we've got 250% tariffs now being threatened for Canada dairy products, which I don't think is going to come to fruition. I couldn't imagine it, but you never know, folks. We've seen crazier things. Look what happened in 2020. Look what's happening now. No one would have ever guessed that we'd see egg prices at $8 here in California. I think it's $4 or $5 across the rest of the country. No one would have predicted that, right? And I think there's going to be a lot more shocks and surprises to keep an eye on economically, financially, and just overall in general. All right, folks. We got to wrap it up. Thanks, everybody. Keep stacking. I was going to say something else. We'll save it for the next report. Big love. Bye for now. Keep stacking. Peace.